which most of you here are familiar faces. So hopefully you'll know that this is a collaboration of strategic leaders across Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. And collectively, you all have something in common, which is that you are all working to advance walking in some way. So in some cases, that could be through transport, it could be through leisure, through health, through community cohesion. Adult social care can be all through a range of different things, but walking is the consistent thing across all of our members. We are going to be recording the session, so I hope that's okay. But if it isn't, then please do send me a message. And I'm going to move over fairly swiftly. Really, we've got a really busy agenda. We've got lots of speakers coming to talk, and then an interactive session where we're hoping is to be able to get input from all of the people in today's session, look at how we might be able to support each other across boundaries and borders and teams that maybe don't normally work together. That's the plan. So that's the interactive element of today. But we're also going to be hearing from the Active Partners Trust team, both about websites, but also about walking and wheeling priorities and what's happening more broadly. So I am going to very swiftly hand over to Karen from the Active Partners Trust, who's going to give us an intro to strategic walking in Nottingham. If you do have anything, please do drop it in the chat. I'm just really mindful that it's quite a swift meeting today. And if you could also pop your name and a little brief snippet of the area that you work in, both in terms of your responsibility and geography, into the chat at any point during today's session. If you could just pop that in, and that would just really give us and other attendees a bit of an idea of who we're sharing the time with. But I'll hand over to Karen now. Karen, if that's okay.
Thank you, Helen. I suppose I'm introducing the shiny new Walk Not team, and obviously the three smiley faces that you can see on the screen there. This is really as a culmination of lots of work that's been happening across Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, because we recognised, along with our public health colleagues as well, I think there's a few on the call, so hello to them, and it's a culmination of all the work that we've come together to realise that there's a real need and an opportunity across Nottinghamshire to really look at the broader walking. And in order to do that, we needed some people who were absolutely passionate and knowledgeable to really drive this work forward and make it happen, and to start bringing people together and recognising that walking's massive. And I think we're all recognising, how difficult it is to actually walk, but the real opportunity around walking. So these three people on the screen that you can see, Laura, Sarah and Melissa, who are all co-leading with Helen this conversation today. If you haven't met them, if you haven't had a chance to have a talk, chat with them, have a coffee, whatever, have a walk and a talk, I think is more appropriate with any of these three, then please reach out and start to explore what that might look like in your area. They each cover different areas of Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, so we've got the whole area covered, recognising that a lot of you may work more within certain districts or certain areas across Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. So we've got it all covered across all of the themes, and between the three, Laura, Melissa and Sarah, they will be a really good link into anything, whether it's all the aspects when we talk about walking and wheeling. So that's it really. So this is the first session led by them. It's brilliant to have them all on board, and to now we're able to make walking happen across Nottinghamshire with their expert help and energy as well. So over to them.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks, Adam, for the slide change. Yeah, we've had the privilege of having lots of preliminary conversations with many of the faces that I can see on the screen today, which has been brilliant. And as part of this work, really trying to think about everyday walking and wheeling across Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, and what does that mean in practice. And I think one of the things we've really kind of recognised from the beginning is the very basic question of what do we mean by walking? Because a lot of people, I think, their head goes to kind of lead walks, whereas actually we are talking about every single step that people take. So if that's getting around the house, that's walking for some people. If that's walking from their front door to their gate, if that's getting out from their gate to local amenities, there's so many different layers to walk in for different people, and that's what we mean by walking from a Walk Nots perspective. So I think opening up the conversations around that has got people thinking much wider whenever we've been talking with partners. I think this broadening of thinking has really helped kind of start to think where excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat today. This is going to happen a few times. Where we can position the work and where we can work together. Next slide, please. And then that also, we've also spent a lot of time checking and challenging and thinking about why do we walk, or why does anybody put one foot in front of the other, and what does that mean to people as well? And there's so many different layers to that when we start considering that. So, there's lots of the community, the focus communities that we're working with are walking out of necessity. And how does that change their perceptions of walking? There's so much around culture and habit around walking. How does that really impact those choices and behavioural behaviours of individuals and groups of people as well? There's so much around, the effects of walking and thinking about health impact, environmental impact, etc. And there's lots around individual behaviours. So that kind of competition accomplishment for some people as well, that's a real and gaining incentives is really important to others. And we've also heard that actually recognizing and understanding and gaining a sense of where you live and the spaces that you frequent is really important for people in terms of their knowledge of their areas and that sense of why do they feel as though that is their community, if they know where they can walk and where they can move around. Next slide, please. And I think what we started to do is a little bit of a pulling together all these examples that we're hearing across all of those communities to try and show that real breadth of types of walking that's already happening in Nottinghamshire already. And there's so many examples. These are just an initial kind of scope that we've started to do. And hopefully through this work, they're going to grow and grow. Sorry if that's really small. I can see everyone like leaning in trying to read that right. But we can share this in a bigger frame. It's just trying to fit it on. But yeah, anything from we've got lots around walking sports there. There's quite a lot of movement around walking buses at the minute, trying to really it's that person-centered support to help people get from one space to another in embed walking as a community, from people's doorsteps into whatever kind of community hub that they're walking to together, so nobody has to take that first step into a community space by themselves. That's just brilliant concept. Yeah, there's absolutely loads in there that I'd love to unpick all day long, but if you've got any more examples, we'd absolutely love to hear about them to add into that mix. Next slide, please. So we've really obviously spent time in this ignition period really thinking about those walking priorities. So if it is everyday walking for everybody, that is obviously massive across the Notts. So actually, who are those groups of people that are not walking and that we really want to kind of really focus and hone in on? And these are the groups that all the data and local knowledge tells us that are walking at the least for lots of different reasons. But these are the groups that we are therefore going to really have that focus upon. And whenever we've had these conversations with people, it has really resonated that that's what they're hearing in communities as well. So But yeah, if you've got any other thoughts on there will be opportunity on the Miro board to kind of add in to those. Next slide, please, Adam. And alongside those, obviously, it's kind of where are a lot of those communities living within Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. So we've really tried to focus on where are those priority places as well across all of those areas. And these are the ones that we've so far, through those discussions with partners, put together to have that focus on. So we're really trying to hone that down. Next slide, please, Adam. And when we're thinking about enabling behaviour change, thinking about the choices that people make every day in terms of putting one foot in front of the other, this is what we've kind of come up with in terms of really wanting to embed the building blocks of health into our thinking. So what are those real building blocks for walking in particular? So we're really thinking about how people's sense of community affects how much they want to walk in their local communities, what's within that 20-minute neighbourhood, so what destinations are there, is it a walkable community for them, can they, what do they want to access, does it feel safe for them to walk in that space, what is their housing like, how does that impact them in terms of them wanting to kind of be able to move out of their housing space and make those choices every single day. What does it feel like to be in that person's, that individual's position, and how does that impact their choices? Also thinking about what resources they have in that kind of hierarchy of needs. So do they have the time? Do they have that financial ability to, and I think a lot of people, if they think about that in the broadest sense, is it conducive to them to want to kind of embed everyday walking into their lives? Things like accessible land and footpaths, that obviously really impact, and we've already started lots of conversations within our priority communities, and it's really interesting to start hearing those patterns around accessible lands and footpaths in those areas, and why some of those communities are not the most walkable places and spaces because of those reasons as well. We also really think about equipment that people have, what access to equipment do they have to enable them to walk and wheel, thinking about walking and moving in its broadest sense. We also, within this model, have kind of embedded some of those behavioural influences as what we're hearing around walking. So what is the capability, opportunity, motivation for people to take those everyday steps? We're hearing that lots of individuals need person-centred support, and what does that look like? How's that being embedded into what they're able to access, and how is it kind of really shifting that, enabling that behavioural change, whether that's social prescribing link workers, whether that's volunteers, whether that's anyone in terms of those walking enablers to really support and help people to take those everyday steps. And also, what's the culture? And I think a lot of people, the word culture doesn't always resonate with everybody in the word, in the way that we mean it in this sense. So I think in terms of culture, what we're hearing is that there's lots of there's many micro cultures within cultures, and I think it's what our different groups and communities what practice are they seeing where amongst others, what practice are they taking amongst themselves, and how's that impacting everybody else? And it just takes that kind of shift of individuals to make that change, to actually move that culture into a different space in terms of making more steps and moving that into more everyday walking. Next slide, please, Adam. And in terms of that infrastructure, which is what we're going to focus on our kind of conversation today, as Helen said, we're hopeful that we've got a real breadth of people within this space to kind of bring lots of different perspectives. So whether your focus is around housing, planning, education, every single element of people's lives really has that impact around everyday walking. So this is the opportunity to kind of pull together as many different perspectives of what we're actually all contributing to in terms of that wider infrastructure, and how we can think about everyday walking within our thinking, and how we can pull together all our different perspectives, and how can we work better together in terms of that wider infrastructure when we're considering influencing and shaping everyday walking for people. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Adam. There is a Miro link in the chat, and we are, if you're not able to access Miro, I believe we're going to share the screen so you can see the activity that is happening. And we are also going to ask you to write in the chat. So hopefully we'll be able to capture some of your thoughts on that as well, so you can see. But essentially, the questions that we'd like to focus on are, so what are we all doing as individuals within our everyday jobs, and what do we want to do around influencing that infrastructure to make it more conducive for people to take those everyday walking steps. We're also going to be thinking about what are those blockers, what is getting in the way. So what can we, look at that focus on, how can we kind of influence and make a shift to that, and thinking about what help do we need and who can support with this. So starting to put those links together on how we can start to work together. So there we go. Thank you very much, Adam. Very slick. That's the Miro board. If you want to open it up yourselves, you can see the post-its that are accessible to you. If you could just move back, Adam, to the infrastructure board at the top, that'd be helpful. Thank you. That's the one. So yeah, these are the three questions that we're asking on the first board, and also if you've got any thoughts on the second board to add in as well in terms of those specific areas of focus when we're talking about infrastructure, that would be really helpful. So we'll give you some time to do that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Melissa. That's really helpful. Hopefully everybody's been able to follow the link and that you can get into the Miro board now. I know we've used Miro before in some of these sessions, so hopefully you've got logins and can get into it. But as Melissa said, please let us know if you can't, and we can take them in the chat. And just while you're orientating yourself around that Miro board, it's just to set some of the context to this as well. So within this group active right now, we've got 40 people-ish that have attended, and several others, lots of other people that couldn't make it because of diary commitments. And what we've kind of realised through the process of these partnership meetings is there are barriers to what we are delivering, but one of our biggest resources is actually the people that are in this room. So the people that are delivering strategic plans, that are setting out objectives, that are delivering projects and programs that support walking. And very often in the course of conversation within people in this room, we realise that some of those barriers can be supported and mitigated by other attendees of this meeting, so people that maybe aren't necessarily connected right now but could quite easily be. So in the course of this, what we're hoping that we'll find is lots and lots of Miro sticky notes about what you're doing, what you want to do, and please feel free to start populating that as I sort of talk over in the background. And really importantly, what's getting in the way of you achieving the things that you really want to achieve. And Melissa, I think we can see that the infrastructure side of it is not just physical infrastructure. This is about kind of the kind of broader look on walking and wheeling. And really importantly, what do you need to be able to get around those blockages, whatever they are. And we are hoping that we can kind of look at those and try and connect up people that can help firstly identify what those difficulties are, but perhaps also we might be able to find ways around them, not just with members, but also kind of the knowledge of them more broadly. If you can put your initials, anyone that's already done the post-it notes already, that's absolutely fine. But if you can put your initials on them, for if people want to follow up, especially around what do you need and what support do you need on this, that would be really helpful to just enable other people to be able to see where they might be able to join up and provide assistance, or get best value out of the things that are already happening. So I can see that there's lots of Miros moving around right now, which hopefully means that you are all in there and navigating the system, hopefully fairly easily. And I'm just going to sort of go a little bit quiet while you just get to grips with that and fill in those post-it notes. So while we are doing that, I'm just going to take the opportunity to ask a few questions, if that's okay. There's a really interesting comment about what's getting in the way, and one of those is phones. So if you're the person that wrote that note, I'd be really interested to hear a bit more background about that. That would be really, really interesting. There's some really good stuff coming into the what do we want to do section. So audio walks. I'm thinking of about a year ago, we had a brilliant session in one of these meetings where we shared one of the audio walks that was happening, and I think a lot of people found that a really creative solution. It's really good to see that audio walks are coming through, and social prescribing is coming through as well. Lots of information about connections and reducing isolation. Please do feel free as well, if you do want to use the audio chat, you're more than welcome to kind of drop into the conversation as we're going along. Looks like there's a few people here that have got IT problems. If you do want to pop it in the chat, that's fine. We'll make sure that they're transcribed over. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a lot of local authority IT systems don't like Miro, so apologies if that's you.
Okay. If you're one of those people that have kind of already filled in the first and second sections of this, and are now looking at the who can support this section, It would be really good if you could just take time to review the things in the what do we need section, so the blue square, just to see whether there is anything in there that falls within your area or within the remit, or whether there is work that crosses over with things that you're doing. So I'm thinking particularly we've got some interesting comments on here. What do we need around walking befrienders? And I'm guessing that probably goes into volunteers as well and volunteer management. We've got people that are looking for support with regular reports on insights from targeted communities is an interesting one. So data, I'm guessing, to back up what's happening and what's working well. Funding support is always one that comes through quite frequently, and I know we had Edwina in from Active Partners Trust a few months ago, who had a really well received presentation about different walking funds that were open and available at that time. So that might be something that we could refer back to Edwina again, potentially, Karen, if that's something that comes up as a common theme around funding to be able to deliver things that we think will work in our communities. And we've just got a couple more minutes for people to continue to fill this in. Okay, looks like the board is getting a little bit quieter now. So what I'll do then is just give a little bit of a summary of what we can see on here, but please do continue to fill them in the background. It's interesting that there's quite a few commonalities here around accessibility and frameworks, how we put things together and support things collectively, and everyday journeys as well, which is what Melissa you've just talked about in terms of that kind of embedded walking behavior. So in terms of what we're doing, there's lots and lots of commonalities in here, which is really interesting. And I think when we pull this together, we'll be able to get a stronger look on that. But it does seem to be something that across all of our partners, that everyday journey and supporting the people that need support the most and would benefit from it the most, that's coming through really strongly. In terms of getting in the way, I really like the perception that a walk must take place in a green space. That's something that we hear quite a bit, that people forget that they're walking when they're just doing their utility journeys, but it is a really, really important part of everyday walking and embedding it into lifestyles. What's getting in the way as well? Funding seems to come up. Costs seem to come up as well, and childcare. Just thinking from a RideWise perspective, we get lots of people that have lots of caring responsibilities, both children and elderly parents or anybody that's in a caring role, and that certainly takes its toll on people's ability to kind of walk, but also their confidence in being able to get from A to B within the time that they've actually got, which can be quite changeable. So there seems to be some really interesting stuff there in the what's getting in the way. Certainly, I think I really agree with the comment that at times it can be a postcode lottery. And I know we literally have a postcode checker at RideWise, where we can check which services people are eligible for, and I think that's definitely something that the public and the members of our community feel the impact of. And what do we need to support this? Also a really interesting one, and one that we'll take some time after this meeting to go through it. Family hubs is an interesting one. I don't know a great deal about new family hubs, so that might be one that we need to kind of look into and see how we pull that information in together. Links to adult social care and carers is also an interesting one, and one that potentially there's members of this group that are in here today that might be able to support with taking those things forward. So I think we're probably at the end of that. The Miro will stay open. It's going to take us a little bit of time to work through people's comments, but also to bring the comments in from the chat. And likewise, if there's anything that you couldn't get into the chat and you want to add it in there, you can always you can always send us a message afterwards and we'll make sure that that's there. So thank you everybody for your input. Miro will continue to be live. You can check it through the link anyway, but we'll follow up outside of this. And hopefully you might be able to kind of scan over that who can we support section to see whether there's anybody that you might be able to reach out to and kind of advance both of your objectives really. But we'll pull all that together and come back to you. But hopefully you found it a useful exercise in just seeing what is happening within the group and the scope of expertise. And yes, we'll go through that and send it over to you afterwards. Thank you. I think we're going to move on fairly swiftly. Sorry to keep chugging along and kind of putting us through to the next agenda without too much of a breath of air between them. But we're going to move on to the Walk Nots website now. And this is something that's come back through feedback from this group, that members of the group were really interested in a combined collective space that they could use for all things walking. And as a result of the feedback that's been given through it, the Active Partners Trust group have moved that on, and I'm going to move over to Adam and the Active Partners Trust team to be able to talk to you about that.
Hi, thanks, Helen. So I'm Adam. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the website and what we're planning to do with the Walk Nots website. I don't know if anyone was on the last call. I think it was around in February time, but we did ask a little survey when we were thinking whether or not we needed to look at a website as one of the outputs of the Walk Nots work. So it's a small sample size, but a very valuable one because obviously there was many of the people on this call now. So yeah, so we went out and asked like if we felt there was a need to develop a county-wide walking website for Knots, and resounding yes. So we felt like there is a space for that. Actually, a bit of research, there isn't really one. There's no real dedicated walking website for Nottingham and Nottinghamshire at the moment. So we felt like that is kind of something we should be looking at. And then so we went on to ask you guys if we would, who would we be aiming at? So what sort of website should it be? So again, most popular was people who aren't currently walking or interested in walking. So obviously everyone's very aligned with our mission, the Walk Nots mission of trying to get inactive people walking more, ultimately. And so yeah, a few other outputs, but predominantly that one. So how can we attract and influence inactive people to walk more? So that's obviously something we'll be bearing in mind. And then we also went on to ask, in order from most important to least important, how would you rank the more important sort of content and content themes for a potential website? So first of all, like information about where to walk and walking groups was like the top two answers, if you like. Not to reference game show for like don't know which game show, but a lot of them. But yeah, so information about where to walk and walking groups is really so try and get some meaningful information that people can rely on and have trusted and faith in and get the detail they need. And not just for big walks, for small ones as well. So that's something that I think we'll be focusing on. And then obviously other things like nice stories about walking, signposting came up a lot, and sort of knowing what's good, because there's loads of great walking apps around there in existence, and how can we link well with them in a potential website we build, and as well as bringing community voice and insight and data on walking. So they're probably the top few things that we've sort of heard that a future website might need. We also asked for some other things that talked a lot. These are the comments that we got, and we talked a lot about connectivity really, and connecting and building partnerships and how we can utilize a digital space to best do that. So basically we've been away and taken them comments on board, and obviously had other conversations as well, and we've started to maybe put into practice some Walk Nots website, basically build the Walk Not website, so what that could look like. So we have got some concepts that I'm going to share when I can find them, the right page that is. So yeah, so I'll just reshare my screen now. So yeah, so we're speaking to our, there's actually one thing I haven't said. So we have been out and we've partnered. So currently, Laura might want to fill me in. Actually, Laura, do you want to talk on this a little bit about the partnership agreement we've got in place?
Yeah, so what we've done is when we were looking into what's available currently on walking in Nottinghamshire on a website basis, we found that Notts Guided Walks, completely volunteer-led organisation at the moment, their website was getting the most hits overall across Nottinghamshire for walking and what walking is, what it looks like, how you sort of connect into walking. Their website was doing whatever they could. So we started conversations with Notts Guided Walks around how we might be able to help support them with evolving their website rather than us building straight from scratch. They've got content, they've got some fantastic links into walking. They've been involved in walking for a very long time and are involved in both delivery and sort of strategic groups across the Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. So we've been working with them and partnered with them to evolve their current website into the Walk Notts website, bringing content, bringing understanding, bringing what people want along with it as well. It's been a really nice journey to go on so far. There's going to be a bit of a rebrand along that as well. Notts Guided Walks are becoming Walk Notts. And that ambition around getting people walking every day is really at the heart of what they do and what they believe. And that's going to hopefully reflect across into the newly developed website that will have a lot more features and functions to sort of pull things together for them.
Yeah, so as I said, so we're taking sort of the best of the Notts self-guided walks website, and hopefully bring that into the future Walk Notts website as well. So we've got some concepts back now, very sort of really rough outline concepts based on a couple of things. So I think the key thing to look at and what it might be is this sort of like double menu, if you like, that we'd probably have. So it's sort of almost like a partnership menu, and then the sort of a public facing menu of where to walk, information on walks, but then obviously a very easy to access menu, more about the partnership work, and obviously details on meetings, what's on, what's important, sharing resources, signposting, and that sort of thing will go there. So this is just the initial concepts really. But this is how we think it could look, sort of maybe sort of representing the Walk Notts work and walking across Nottinghamshire. So we'd have details, and the key thing on this, I don't know if anyone's experimented, but obviously there's in Derbyshire, there's some Walk Derbyshire work, and we've borrowed a lot of insight from that work there. So but what's great about this is we can have people submit their own walks and walking groups and events. So we're going to rely on the network to basically be putting forward their walks, their knowledge of walking, and submitting them, which we'll then publish. So it is really hopefully going to be a shared digital resource for walking in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. And that's the hope. And this is just some early sort of visuals on how it could look and how it could work. And then, yeah, bringing in the partnership working and reflecting that in the work, essentially. And I'll just show you a visual. So this is how the walks could look. So there's a postcode search lookup, which is not something that exists in Nottinghamshire at the moment. So in theory, people can go onto sort of and to put their postcode in and look for a walk that's local to them and get them walking from their doorstep, providing we have the content there. So that will be like a big ask coming for people to design local walks and stuff like that. But this is the general idea behind the website and what it could be. Yeah, I mean, so that's that really. And I'm just going to ask for a few comments on initial early thoughts. We are testing your IT skills a bit, but I have set up a quick Menti, which is the same format we used last time for that initial survey that I just took you through. So I'm just going to share with you a code now, which hopefully you can all click on. So in the chat, there's a little code there. Hopefully you can click on that and answer sort of a couple of questions that are there in relation to the website.
For those of you who are already on the Miro as well, there is a board on there with the website design on. So feel free to drop stickers on with thoughts, feelings, anything that you think needs to be on there, needs to be considered, would be really helpful.
I can't see the link. I don't know if it's just me in the chat.
Did not come through. Let me just post it again. Sorry, I should have. Is it there? There's someone getting some comments already, so I think some people are getting it.
Oh, right. It must just be me then.
Which is weird. You wouldn't think you'd have a problem. That's your internal.
Oh, so I can use the code anyway there. That's fine.
Okay, cool. So yes, hopefully, yeah, I'm getting a few comments, which is great. And it all looks very positive. Which is nice to hear. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do on it. This is just the beginning, but hopefully it will be a great resource for everyone when it's done. I can leave this here. This can stay, so we won't spend too long. I think we have quite a bit still to cover, don't we, Helen?
Yep.
So okay. Yeah, so please, yeah, so carry on answering it, and I'll revisit the comments, and we'll take that on board and feed it into like the design mock-ups. And there is a question too as well, just in case anyone doesn't notice that.
And while people are just filling that in, and while we've got Adam on the microphone, does anybody have any questions for Adam before we move on? I know that there's a section about suggestions in the Menti anyway, so people can put that there. But we've just got a couple of minutes left of this particular time slot. So if anybody did have any questions or queries or suggestions, now would be a good time for it. You can feel free to raise a hand or just speak on the mic. Either is fine.
And also, if anyone feels like they have some real worth in this space, in this digital space, and wants to get involved in the project, feel free to let me or Laura know, and we can sort of bring you into like more detailed, focused conversations on its development. Because obviously we're looking to build this with as much shared knowledge as possible. So yeah, please let me or Laura know if you think you could add a lot to the development of the site.
It'd be really valuable for anyone who wants to sort of be part of a small focus sort of group on this to come and join us. It would be invaluable to have input from others on this.
Brilliant. And Adam and Laura, the way that people might use this website, so when it is up and running and it's fully populated, there is a diary in there or what's on the section, isn't there? How would our partners use the website once it's up and running?
There'll essentially be forms, so like data collection forms. So you can basically submit a walk by filling in a series of questions or an event. So there'd be sort of a series of questions where you go, like my event, you put in the location where it is, what time, when is it starting, if it's free to enter, etc. And I don't know if anyone's spent any time on the Active Not Active Derbyshire websites, which is makingourmove.org.uk, but we're borrowing a lot of the technology from that in the build of this website, and that's like obviously works in that way. So people can submit a walk or activity through there. So yeah.
Right.
And people still to be worked out loads of detail, but yeah, that's essentially how it works.
While they're doing that, there'll be tick boxes about, whether it's buggy friendly, dog friendly, that sort of thing as well. So that will be collected alongside that input. So that helps with people searching on those walks as well, if they want one to bring their dog to or their child to and that sort of thing.
And we've got a question from Rob. Rob, could I bring you in for your question or comment? Please?
Yeah, it's comment question. I think the website is going to do what many of us have known has been needed for a long time. So that is fantastic, and it's lovely to see. The one thing that does crop up though from periodically is that there's still quite a lot of people who do not have access or the ability to access web-based information, and we therefore do need to make sure that one way or another, and we know it costs money, but one way or another the information is available for people who are not for whatever reason, through cost or through lack of technical proficiency do not have access to the website. So I think it's really just, I haven't got an immediate answer to that. But I mean,
So
obviously,
can I jump in with that one then, Rob? We actually partly chose Notts Guided Walks because Notts Guided Walks are a driving factor for a paper version of the walks for a year, and they print one every year. And we are looking at how we can potentially build that into the website so that they don't have to do quite so much work in the background to pull that together, and that sort of printable copy will hopefully be sort of built into that, so we can still have it printed, we can still have it distributed, but yeah, hopefully that will all fit together. It's again a work in progress, and we've got to see how that all happens.
I mean, as you know, Laura, I'm very familiar with Chris Thompson's excellent work, and that essentially is the way forward. But I thought it's something that's always worth mentioning, despite my IT being in favour of IT based things, not everybody's able to. So thank you for confirming that, Laura. Cheers.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody's responses on the Menti as well. That's really useful. And I'm sure that's something that Adam and Laura and the team will take back and then reflect on in relation to the website. If you do want to take part in the small focus groups that Laura's mentioned, then Laura, should people drop you and Adam an email? Would that be the way forward? Yeah, fabulous. So if that is something that you're interested in, then do drop them a message and I'm sure they'll get straight back onto it. Okay, we are moving swiftly on then towards the end of the agenda. We've just got the roundup now of the things that we've discussed and a short video to share with you. So what we're going to do is do the roundup now, which is just a kind of reflection on the things that we've discussed, and we'll essentially almost close the meeting, but Adam will play a video at the very end so that you can watch that and then leave sort of almost immediately afterwards. So just looking through while Adam and Laura were talking there, I was looking through the post-it notes that everybody's put together into those three sections, and I thought there was some really interesting kind of themes that are starting to come out of that. One of the themes that I think I've picked up on at least is kind of the need to join things up. There was lots of kind of individual messages about building on existing resources, building on existing plans, building on connections, joining things up. They're all words that have come straight from that, from those those post-it notes that people have put. I think that's really interesting and probably kind of just scratches at the surface of what we expected that in the course of this conversation, maybe we hoped that we might identify barriers and blockages that other people within this meeting might be able to kind of start to reach out and support and help to ease some of that progress. So that's definitely something that we'll look into when we are sort of going through these notes, and we'll get back to you in good time before the next meeting to start to think about how we might be able to progress that. And then the other thing that comes through to me is kind of the sharing side of that. So sharing some of that data, sharing information about funding, sharing information about plans and what's happening. So that also seems to come through quite strongly. So all of that will get processed when the Menti info is kind of digested. But thank you so much for the input in getting to that point. I think it's really useful. And kind of really this is a room full of leaders in walking, and we're really just trying to look at how can we maximise what everybody is already doing. There's such a wealth of energy and experience, and we want to try and support in making the most of it. So thank you for that. There's just a couple of other things to mention to you before we go on to the video. Ideas for future meetings. As you'll know, this is a partnership meeting, and we take the themes for future meetings from the discussions that we've had in these sessions. So if there is something that you think actually this is sort of big on the horizon, or this has a potential to be interesting to the group, or this is something that is really kind of in my focus, if you could let us know about that either now or through the chat or via an email, that would be really helpful so that we can start to plan how we can support on that. Likewise, any sort of best practice or information that you're keen to share, because I know that's also something that works really well within this group. And following on from that, I think it was just kind of a quick call as to whether there is any other business that people wanted to flag up, whether there's anything that we've not missed, that we've not sort of captured already, that we need to capture somewhere or to briefly discuss or to flag up for the next meeting. If there is, then please, this is the time to kind of flag it up. And if not, we'll move straight over to Adam for the video, Adam, if that's okay. So before the video plays, I'll just thank you all for your contributions. It's really useful, and hopefully it's been useful for you. And Adam, if you'd like to show us the Meanderers walking stories, we'll close straight after that.
Yes, I'll just set it up a little bit. So this is a lovely little case study from Nottingham City, where it's a group of younger people who you might not expect to have sort of social issues, etc., but that found walking for creative walks, if you like, that have inspired them to sort of reduce their inactivity. So I'll just share this walk, and it's a group called Meanderers, which is led by a young lady called Amelia Days, like I say, in Nottingham City. But I'll just share the video anyway, and you can see for yourselves. So thanks for today.
Thank you.
My art form is based around trying to engage people with things that improve their well-being or make them feel better through art. My main project is Meanderers, and that's aim is to use walking and creative walking to improve people's well-being and build a sense of community.
It was quite nice to be in the company of others, and just because you know that you're both enjoying the walk and you're just sort of enjoying like the surroundings and being outside, so that's quite nice to share with people that you don't know.
I've always enjoyed walking and found it really useful for my own mental health. I think that it kind of built up to the point where it had to be about walking. My art practice had to be about walking. Meanderers has two parts to it. I run a free to attend drift every month, and a drift, it comes from an art movement where we start from a different location every month. I just set the location, but I'm not the walk leader. I don't know where we're going, and I don't know how long it will take, which is slightly odd to invite someone to a walk where you don't know where you're going. But it does seem to work. We do go places, you know, it's actually quite easy to say, where should we start? Let's walk this way.
It's a new kind of activity that I've got into through coming along to some of these and also some of the drifts that Amelia runs as well. I've definitely enjoyed it, and so I'd look out for other opportunities like that if they were to come along.
You're looking around more and taking in your surroundings, not just focused on where you're going, because you don't know where you're going.
During COVID and also then subsequently, I found that quite a lonely period of my life actually. The more people I kind of opened up and spoke to about this, saying actually it's quite difficult to make friends in this era of my life. Lots of people are moving around a lot, changing cities for jobs and for partners, friends, just to change. So people keep finding themselves in situations where they need to make friends, and there's not very many places for this age group to make meaningful friends with like wholesome interactions. I wanted to create that because I realised that I didn't have that for myself.
Basically, if I can't identify it, I like it. So
you don't really get that many opportunities where you can be quiet with people as well, and also just feel really comfortable.
I moved back to Nottingham. I did have friends in a social group. I wanted to provide that service for the people that I didn't have before. So I'll just do a little demonstration. The more people that I've spoken to in lots of areas of my work and practice, actually a lot of people in my age group have said how difficult it is to find friends, you know, post-uni. If you're not friends with the people that you work with, then there's very little chance to kind of form those real connections. So I wanted Meanderers to be a place for that as well. And I think a lot of people come to Meanderers for that and are able to get that from Meanderers, which is really great. It is open to all age groups, but my personal reach through social media and things, it tends to be people within my own sort of roundabout age group, and I think this is quite a common issue that has come alongside the project that it's able to address. 20 still, you feel like you should be like, you know, having all the time of your life all the time, having these really crazy nights all the time, but not everyone wants to do that all the time, and it's just not practical to do that all the time. We're not in uni age anymore. We have jobs and things that we want to do, and with a lot of online social platforms, it's very easy to feel like you are being social, but you're actually very much on your own at home. And so walking by its nature is something really you do have to get outside and do with other people. It's as accessible as public places are, which is great for those that don't feel like they could take on a big hike where there's a really strict pace. So yeah, it's really great for that. And then the other part of it is the full workshops. They're all curated under a theme, and they include a planned creative walk followed by a social meal, and then an art making activity. There was a poetry themed walk. We did the walk and wrote poetry, and then there was alphabet soup. And then there was a zine making workshop that involved the poems. We did a foraging one where I got a foraging expert in to lead us, and we had a foraged meal. And then we did cyanotype printing, which is using plants directly in the artwork as well that we'd collected. There was a pareidolia one, which is where you can spot faces in buildings and objects. So we looked for that, and then had pizzas that had faces on them, and did like lino printing of the faces that we'd found. So yeah, very themed, and very fun kind of themes. Yeah, and those three elements working together kind of creates a lovely, wholesome day. It was like my perfect idea of a Sunday, to go for a nice walk, have a nice meal, and do some art. It kind of seems like it's a lot of other people's idea of perfect Sunday as well, so that's really nice to share that.
Oh, I loved that. What a great video that was. Thanks so much for sharing that, Adam. I think it really gave a different perspective on things, and maybe challenges that idea of kind of who walks are for and why they're for them, because it's so clear that people got so much more out of that than just the physical act of walking. And it was just a great video altogether. So hopefully you also enjoyed that, and it looks like Adam's just popped a link. Is that to a different video, Adam, in the chat?
Oh, sorry, that's the following. This is a focus been on the venue actually that hosts those walks, which is a great community space as well. But I will post the right link. 1 second.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending today. And I hope you found it useful. We certainly have. We'll send out some update information at some point over the next few weeks. But do feel free to contact any of us if you've got any questions or follow-ups. The Miro board, I think Adam is going to keep them open for a while for anybody that's struggled to access them. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Helen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.